Good.
Ready.
I'm like, okay.
There you go.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Green Room. And boy,
I know.
do
No,
we
I had
have
to finish
news on
posting.
news on news
Well, no,
on
listen.
news.
So,
It's
welcome everybody. Listen.
yeah, it's
So
exciting.
sometimes we have guests, and we've had some great ones lately.
Yeah, lately we had all
including Carlos Guillermo Smith,
Yeah,
and we had Dr. Greg Gerdeman in
Yeah,
as
he's
our last. Oh
awesome.
no, he was. We had a lot of cannabis talk. We'll get there today too. But there's been so much happening,
Tons.
since last Green Room. We
Tons.
missed last week because I went to Akron, Ohio.
I know.
I just posted. Big shout out to the Firestone High School class of 1974.
Awesome.
Listen, we have people that watch us
Everywhere.
from my class in the green room. They would come up to me, people that I was surprised about. I know, it was awesome. It was really cool.
No, I know people in like all over watch. I do.
And listen, I will say that I did go home again to that extent. It was my 50-year high school
I
reunion.
know they say you never can, but you kind of.
You know what? But listen, so many of those people, some that I had played literally in the playpen with, that would be my temple friends because that even predates school.
Yeah.
But many people that I started kindergarten with went all the way through high school, and it was so great to see them all. I told you when I came back some interesting things about the reunion. I was the only continued working doctor out of all the doctors that had graduated with us.
And you had, that's incredible.
In the old days, when you were 68 and you were a physician, I think very few retired because they just wanted to continue to go and give and do. And listen, some of my colleagues had fantastic careers and retired happy. Some had not so fantastic and happy careers and retired a little bit more bitter. But all of them suffer from some degree of hospital buyout, the changes, in healthcare, COVID, absolutely every single one of them just burned them out. And it was so interesting for them to see that as I was the only one still out there daily, taking care of patients, doing my thing with enthusiasm and passion. And as I explained to them, I retired from my ER career, my first career 9 years ago, which is crazy to think about all the changes that have occurred in those 9 years. Because at that last reunion, I was still very, very happy ER doctor at that point. Little did I know my blood pressure would get in the way. But my point is, thank God I got out of the ER because listen, when the Browns win the Super Bowl, I got to go like this with both arms instead of like that with only one arm. And I would have had a stroke with the blood pressure 188 or 122.
We don't want
so now as a very passionate medical cannabis clinician and really, a lot of interest to that extent. A lot of people knew what I was up to. Some people didn't know what I was up to. But it was really just striking as I explained to everybody that ability, and I'm not overly religious, so I won't necessarily say blessing, but I'll say honor and gratitude to have found a, second passionate career that continues to this day. We got so much going on. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all my Firestone High School class of 1974. Listen, I went to my burger places. I went to
the food looked
Don Drum Studio. No, listen, Don Drum. Just listen, if you know, you know. So there's certain phrases, like if he has something to say it to my face. Okay, that's the Kamala thing going on. We'll get to that in about 30 seconds. But if you know,
it's wicked.
It's one of those, if you know, you know. It's Akron, Ohio, Don Drum, one of the greatest artists ever. He does the suns, the aluminum suns you may see some places. We bought a gator up there. Met the master. He's 89 years old. He was wandering from his house over into his studio, and I walked up to him, and as I am, I said, Mr. Drum, I just got to tell you, we're here from Florida. Seeing you, I wanted to shake your hand and everything, and I got a couple pictures with him. It was great. Awesome. Drove through what's called the Ford in Akron, Ohio, and then we'll get past it, which is where the stream actually goes over the road in the parkway. It's I know it is. So Akron, Ohio, great to be back there. Swenson, Skyway Burgers, Firestone High School, all of it. Okay, so but listen, we have a new presidential. So if I would have won an award at the reunion, and they didn't give out any, but I would have won the award for. He's the same guy that he was way back when, because here I am going crazy, pontificating here in the green room. And yes, Kamala is unbelievable. Great launch, even up till yesterday. If you want to look at the other side.
Listen, JD Vance, wow, just that hillbilly elegy.
Former President Trump's appearance in front of the, black press correspondents. I don't know. It just shows the difference.
And it's like
I guess what really confounds me and astounds me about what's now the presidential race is that there's the same playbook from former President Trump and that gang that this is an incompetent woman. She's nothing. She's this. She's that. No, you have to give people credit.
I'm sorry.
Where
Give
they
credit where
are.
credit is due. And honestly, a lot of people
I
on
don't
Facebook
know.
said, I want
I'm gonna shut up
anybody,
for a bit.
no, but I want anybody to put their resume up against hers. Okay, just put side by side resumes, and that speaks volumes on its own. Trump, okay, his resume, please. The guy's a fraud, a crook, a felon, proven guilty. I mean, come on, you cannot compare the two. She put away people like Trump. She literally did.
But yesterday was despicable because
despicable.
Listen, this is a country where everybody makes their way. And when you're born into this country from a Jamaican father and an Indian mother, okay, believe me, you gotta kind of wind your way through the world.
Okay,
I have respect for people.
Okay, but you know what's even funnier? His vice president, J.D. Vance, his wife is Hindu Indian from India, and his children practice Hinduism.
But Kamala Harris, went to Howard. She was in a black sorority.
Yeah, she was in a black sorority.
However you choose to navigate through the world, you're a proud American, of course, but you have your heritage, and you live in.
Yes, of course, and so does everybody. And like,
it astounds me that why be so divisive?
It is
always.
It is always. It is. It's just.
It's going to backfire. I would have to think. I don't know.
I think people are tired of it, but
they are.
But then you go on that stupid Facebook and people are still wackadoodles on there and like spouting conspiracy theories and posting, and it's tiresome. And people are tired. But the thing is that he continues to hit that nerve somewhere of those people.
But I think people want to have a legitimate policy debate.
I think they want a policy. He's gonna.
But there is no policy there. So the Heritage Foundation thing with the Project 25 fired the guy. Now they're dismantling the entire thing, and they think like what people are going to forget about.
Forget what was written. Like that. They think
or don't know that Steve Bannon is up there at the top, calling for the dismantling of all government.
All government. I mean, these people are crazy. They're dangerous.
No, it's chaos
they are chaotic and they're dangerous.
I don't understand.
It should be allowed.
Who wants chaos? Why?
But you know what the problem is? They don't see the forest through the trees. His followers just do not. And honestly, I have to say something. And I don't mean I have.
You had some interesting threads over.
I had a lot of threads over a lot of things.
Oh, listen! The night of the Olympic opening was the night of my Friday night, reunion thing. So I didn't see it.
Yeah,
the entire Bacchanal is what I understood it to be, and not honestly, the Last Supper.
Oh my God! Okay.
Oh, hang on. Can we morph to Snoop Dogg for just 30 seconds?
Let's go to the Olympics for a minute. We have to go there.
There's so much going on. That's why we couldn't have a guest today.
No,
I mean, seriously. No, but I just want to get to Snoop Dogg for a moment as now America's new mascot. It's awesome. I don't know if he's had a blunt or a joint or any of that anywhere to be seen in his France.
But no, but he also said he quit.
Is that right? I didn't see. I didn't see any of it.
He quit like a year ago. He said.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Smoking cannabis or using all cannabinoids? Is that right?
Yeah, he said.
I'll have to read the story.
Yeah. About a year ago, he said he.
It's interesting because we have patients all the time that are in all kinds of different phases of cannabinoid use.
Although,
but it's glorious to see him out there.
I love his thing where he has the torch and he's blowing. Eye rings are coming out.
I didn't read that he say it in interviews during the Olympics necessarily. Tiff, do you have any insight into that? When you do a quick research hit on that,
see if
we can confirm that, because I know Willie Nelson did stop
and I think
using smokable cannabis, but continued to use cannabinoids in other ways.
Snoop wanted to take a break. I think that's what I read. It was a while ago though, so I don't know. Maybe he stopped. But let's get to the Olympic Games. So France is France. France is not America. France is not Australia. France is not Fiji. France is France.
Sure.
They have an artistic eye. They always have. They've always been on the verge of always being outside the box. They don't like inside the box. That's what makes France France. That's what makes their fashion trendy. What makes their art amazing. It's different. They think differently. They don't like traditional. The fact that people saw this opening, which I thought was probably one of the best openings ever, to have it on the same.
I still
I'm
haven't
like,
watched it, but
it's
you know, it's
amazing.
kind of like hard to.
Anything on Snoop?
He didn't. He's partnering with a smokeless fire grill, so that's why he said he was giving up smoke because it's a smokeless fire grill.
Okay, so he's not.
So what exactly is that tip? The smokeless fire
The
grill.
smokeless fire grill, so you can grill like inside. It has a back.
But he didn't give
But
up.
he did not give
No.
up cannabis.
No,
did
he
it,
was
okay.
giving up smoke, and then everybody panicked for.
Oh, maybe that's where
Okay.
I gave up.
But he's
because
giving up
everybody's-
smoke for a smokeless fire grill.
All right,
Wow.
good.
That's
Thank
it.
you from behind the
Thanks,
mic.
Yeah, no, that's good.
No, because listen, cannabis has always been a part of Snoop's
Yeah, I
persona,
thought, but
which
it
is
was
why I
on-
wanted to bring it up in the glorious nature that it is. Because
He's the guy that
listen,
rolls joints for him every day. That's what
he
does.
does. He has a joint roller. He does. He basically yes.
Where is that though? Like then, like
Well,
He
you probably
was
saw-
over
you
for
know.
a while because
Oh,
he took
okay.
the giving up smoke.
smoke.
and ran
Okay,
with
because
it.
I was
Okay.
like, I remember it was like, yeah, it was like big. I'm
Don't
like,
want to
what's the-
spread false rumors about America's new
No.
mascot.
And I had to give him a shout out. Like he's everywhere. He's like at every big event. And honestly, the only other person I have to say, well, first of all, Simone Biles, shout out. She's amazing. She is the GOAT. Tom Cruise. They said he's such a introvert and kind of weirdo. He was taking selfies with anybody that wanted to at
Sure.
the games, and that was really nice. And Celine Dion, I just have to say, wow, because I don't know if you saw her documentary. This woman is battling that stiff man syndrome, where it's crippling
We
her,
have a couple
including her
patients
wrist.
with
It's
it.
awful. It's truly awful. And so she was talking about, not being able to ever sing again, and the fact
Wow.
that she went up on the Eiffel Tower and sang was. I know she was holding back tears as she was singing. You could see her eyes were swelling. Wow. Like,
Sure.
it was wow. And like such an amazing event. And so here you have that. And then there was a portrayal of, yes, Bacchus, Dionysus, however Greek, Roman you want to call them. They were doing a parody, but not only a parody, it was actually an exhibition of showing the feasts and the food and
Sure.
tradition of Greece. They had
Where
statues
everybody
of
would
Greek
dress up.
people
Hang on, where
walking
people
around.
would dress up in drag because all parts in the plays were played by
Oh my
men.
God,
Hang
come
on.
on, Shakespeare. Like people
Of
get riled
course.
up, their panties up.
Of
Shakespeare was
course.
all males dressed up as women.
Yeah,
Come
what's
on.
going on in today's quote unquote anti-woke
Oh,
or
Jesus.
whatever it may
Oh, I shouldn't say
be?
that, but like,
Well, I don't know what it is. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just know that there's, you
okay,
know
then
what
even take the French, but even take the French. Look at Louis. He always had wigs, high heels, and stockings on. Come on, it's part of France.
I
You
guess
gotta
just to
love it.
finish the
Perfume.
thought, I guess I just don't understand why France, America, countries with freedom and democracy and this and that.
So-called.
And listen, in the old days. So I don't know what checkpoint I'm going to have now, Ruta, because it's always I have my birthday and I have my 50-year high school reunion. Now it's past that, so
Uh-oh.
we got to the elections coming up. No, that's the point. 95. Look behind me, everybody. Not
I
Ruta,
know.
actually. 95
days
days.
to go.
It's going to be a sprint. And I have a trip coming up and everything, and I'll come back, and then it's going to be even quicker.
Days, so for you, it's going to be like
So
early voting. They think is starting.
no, it is.
It is.
It's
started.
dizzying.
It is
And
dizzying.
last time we were in the green room, we had an entirely different presidential race. And even
Yeah.
as per up to yesterday, lunacy occurs almost every
Every
single day.
day.
The waters get churned.
They do.
And it was so interesting at the reunion because, and I know you know this, when you go out into public settings these days, you really don't talk
Politics.
national politics.
No,
You can
'cause
talk local politics.
Yeah, local more so. But
Absolutely.
But national, not so much.
You really don't.
No, you don't.
And there wasn't a whole lot of talk, up
No,
at my
people
reunion
just
about it,
don't
but you
get
can
into
kind of
it.
tell.
Who-
One way to
who-
tell, of course, is you ask, what are you doing at 6:30 in the morning, and drinking coffee and watching whatever morning show that you watch.
Yes, and that's a big tell.
It is, tends to lead the way.
Yeah,
I was
okay.
really
I
struck by
got
the
it.
number of people that have already moved down to Southwest Florida that I didn't know about yet, or
But
that are
it's
planning on
You
moving.
know, it's a great state. It is to a big degree. I mean, we have a governor that's a little wackadoodle there himself, but outside of that, like we have a lot of beautiful beaches. We have great weather. There's a lot to be said for Florida. And I've been a resident here going on 26 years. Hard to believe 26 years.
But you know, going back to a little bit earlier in the green room, one of the joys that I have of continuing to practice, and it's therapeutic. You know, it's funny that's why I literally called it therapy this morning for this morning's green room, because that's why we don't have a guest.
No,
We need this. But to me, every single day, who else gets to speak to 25 to 30, okay, or whatever, if we're busy more, you know, average Floridians every day. And we're, as everybody knows, pretty, you know, conservative Republican Sarasota County. And I think most people kind of know that I lean a little bit left, but I don't lean a lot left.
No,
and, you know, I think most of us want to live in the center. We want to live in the middle.
For me too, like people are like, oh,
we want to live in the middle.
Because I wanted 50, like people called me like pie in the sky. Margaret Good actually referred to me as pie in the sky. And the reason why was back when 6 years ago, I said $15 should be the norm. Well, now people are paying 22 at McDonald's. You still can't get help. Sure. So much for my pie in the sky. But
no, we do. I think people in general want to live, you know, near the middle. And as I like to call it, you know, as I speak to patients every day, I just call it abnormal. And I think we've spoken to it in the green room. Abnormal 2024 abnormal. The older you are, the more abnormal the world appears, which allows me to recognize people living in all the different zones that we live in. But in our day, when we grew up, Walter Cronkite-ism, Sunday morning editorial page-ism, you know, we left was here and right was here, and we could work together and get things done. Now with left here and right here, you know, it is extreme on both sides.
It's extreme on both sides.
But my point is this, though.
I think that's not healthy for anybody.
If the left over here, though, somehow, and I know how fearful they are of it, but the left is not going to restrict the right from raising their kids how they want.
But the right is
but the right would restrict the left.
Yeah, it is.
So I guess that's the simplest way for me.
But I agree with that. I think
kind of look at it, right?
No, I agree. I think for the left, they're going to be like, okay, do whatever the hell you want.
If you want to raise your kid in a Handmaid's Tale type of environment,
knock yourself out.
Knock yourself out, or you want to be off grid.
Yeah,
knock yourself out. As long as you're not harming me or anybody else, or promoting hate of any other groups, you know, then do what you want. But the right's not willing to allow the left to do that.
They don't. They want to mandate how everyone should.
That's what's so bizarre about JD Vance.
And it's also
is that he wants his image of family and what he views. And that's the Christian nationalistic.
Okay,
I hate to put Christian on it
because first of all, JD Vance just converted to Catholicism. He was an atheist.
Is that right?
Until 2022. 2022, he became Catholic.
What name was he back then? Oh no, he's had about 3 or 4 different names.
Yeah, he changes his name.
Listen, he had an interesting upbringing, but you know, he's as much of a manufactured phenomenon of media as Donald Trump himself from The Apprentice. Yeah. You know, he had that Netflix movie, or I don't know, Tiff, you love the era that you could speak to it, right? He had some movie or something on Netflix.
Hillbilly Elegy.
Hillbilly Elegy or something.
Well, that makes me want to vote for him.
Yeah,
I don't know. Hillbilly Elegy. I'm like,
so listen, we're having the green room. You know, listen, let's talk Amendment 3 a little bit, because Senator Grutter's yesterday, interesting day, came out in support of Amendment 3, legal adult use cannabis here in the state of Florida. And, you know, he joins, you know, kind of a growing list of people doing that. We had the sheriff wrote an op-ed, you know, and this and that. So it's interesting.
Well,
the hemp space still, you know,
the interesting thing is
mixed.
Yesterday in Orlando, in the Orlando Sentinel, they actually had an article about the pushback to for voting against 3.
Sure.
And they said DeSantis actually has held, and he supposedly, as of today, there's going to be a barrage of vote on 3.
So
it's
it'll be interesting. We haven't started. We haven't seen that campaign.
We haven't seen it yet. It's launching.
But I think it's brave of Joe to do that. You know, listen, I will say this, and
that's against his own party.
It is, but he's broken free from Governor DeSantis in the past on other issues. But you know, and I'm not going to take full credit, or quite frankly, any credit, you know, for Senator Grutter's stance. But he was in our clinic all the way back in August of 17 for a visit. I give him credit for that. You and I had breakfast, with him, and we discussed cannabis policy
It's a
as we have with
thing.
Representative Buchanan,
Yeah.
as we have with Nikki Fried on the Democratic side. We had Carlos Guillermo Smith going back up to the Senate. So we do. We've had Congressman Stubbe. So no, we need that.
We do. We need.
And that's what I tell my patients every day: is that what we're going to do is that we're going to continue to work hard every day with honesty and integrity and education and fight to make sure that the medical program, sustains the best it can. But listen, it needs that 60%, that golden 60% number. Well, it may or may not.
I don't know. It's going to be a tough call. I don't know.
It is. It is. I know also, and I know you read the article. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. Big shout out to Dr. Bridget Williams, friend from Ohio. And I know what Bridget's out there doing right now, Ruta, very interesting. And one of my goals, of course, she's educating the general doctor population right now in all kinds of interesting venues about cannabinoids and everything. And it's important because with the Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 discussion going on
overall.
But I know she wrote an article that I know you found very interesting. And I haven't had a chance. Essentially what it's all about, and you'll illuminate a little bit on the article. Medical cannabis has been utilized as a route towards legal adult use, and many in the advocate community really have never accepted cannabis as medicine necessarily, and even in that community, I don't want to misrepresent the article, but we've had to fight for legitimacy in all angles.
The thing is, I think companies are companies, corporations are corporations. And for any company that's in the cannabis space, obviously their ultimate goal is to open their doors for profit to the maximum capacity they can. Well, so most of them couldn't
business in America.
Yes, and most of them couldn't gain entry without doing medical first. Sure. So it's a stepping stone. That's all it was.
It's just interesting how it came that way. But I'll be honest with you, I may have started that way back in January of 2017 as that social warrior as well. But I told every single doctor, compadre of mine at the reunion this past weekend, I am continuously shocked every single day at the positivity of cannabis as medicine if the appropriate patients are educated in the appropriate manner. And the excitement to me about the cannabinoid world is the fact that I really do think in a lot of ways we are still just scratching the surface of knowledge and insight and research and testing and listen, I don't trust pharma, and insurance companies as far as I can throw them, period, nada, this, that, and it's going to get complicated, and listen, the whole Chevron decision, which came down from the Supreme Court that talked about governmental regulation, it's kind of put a wrench in the whole Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 discussion. We should get Don Murphy back up in the green room with us, our Washington, connect. So, it's going to be interesting, of course, Vice President Harris has a history as a prosecutor, in California, with putting a lot of people in prison, over cannabis policy. But, I think if J.D. Vance can say that, Trump was America's Hitler, I think we can give, Vice President Harris listen, you got to be objective as you go through. Everything was different 10 years ago. Everything was different.
At that point, when she was a prosecutor, because she's been a senator now for 10 years.
Right.
So go back.
Everything was different.
It was different
for sure.
She was a prosecutor. Right. It was illegal. So I'm sorry.
It was illegal. It was connected to significant drug cartels and
she
other
lives
such
on
things.
A border state where a lot of known drugs have gone through Mexico.
And just like today, there is fentanyl that's crept into the cannabis supply. Today, there are single exposure, overdose to death, pressed out pills that have, fentanyl in it. You can't do things in society now that maybe you could do 10, 15, 20 years ago. Well, no, it is.
That's the scary thing.
Listen, when I applauded Senator Gruters for his stance, and said it was the only thing, in my humble opinion, for public health and safety, I took a hit, on the X, not Twitter anymore, I guess, whatever they call it these days, the X feed, that they're surprised that a former ER doctor would have that stance. And I haven't re-engaged back, and I probably won't. But that to me is just a knee-jerk response to the extent of the public health and safety issues. Amendment 3 may be what it is and what it's not. But what I do know is that will allow people to not have to be exposed to things because regulation and testing, and that's mold and that's fungi and it's pesticides, but it's also fentanyl and stuff like that. And people make bad choices. They do. But bad choices should never result, in death. And it's just a different society in 2024. So I just think it's a very superficial level to say, how can any emergency doctor, advocate for the safe access to a plant, that's been around for eons. I don't know, but I know there's still a lot of people out there, and I don't know how to put that into a feed where I could have other ER doctors and say, hey, who's on this side and who's on that side, people that are still out there practicing. Listen, for sure. I don't know how Tiff, tell me how to get that done on X so I get some attention or something like that. I know I can't ask you because you don't know such things.
I don't know.
You do a poll on there and on Facebook.
Yeah, well, no, they do. They
Yeah,
have
they do
polls.
polls.
I've done it
Stu
before,
does
but then I get
polls all the
about,
time.
5 people.
Well,
I know. I want a big poll.
You need to make it controversial somehow, yeah.
You do. Well, maybe because, I've taken the hits on. No, I don't think anybody cares if I'm taking the hits on X. I'm kidding about not, because I just think it's that conversation that's important. Listen, I'm going to have my opportunity. We're doing the Tiger Bay, hopefully we haven't heard yet the final on
Actually,
that.
I have to give out a quick shout out to Tiger Bay today.
Yep.
This is an interesting thing for all the Sarasota County listeners. You need to pay attention to these things. Tiger Bay is a political arena where it's a private club, and then you can bring guests in, but it's all political. It's
been around forever.
Been around forever. It's
Established.
moderated. They always represent both sides. They want to hear opinions on both sides. It's nonpartisan. It's extremely a welcoming environment. It's funny. People laugh. It's not, anything horrible. Anyways, Tiger Bay today invited all the commissioners that are running for Sarasota County Commission. Interestingly enough, the only ones that are showing up are the ones that are not paid off by the developers, like Pat Hale and Baroof and all of them. So Mast and Rainford, who was appointed by DeSantis, is a no-show today. And Mast, who is a builder herself and belongs to that cartel, also isn't showing to Tiger Bay. So the only ones showing are Knight and Alex Coe.
Mike Moran.
Mike Moran. Oh, speaking of Mike Moran.
No, he was front page Sarasota Herald Tribune.
Mike Moran, he's repulsive in what he did. He took taxpayers' dollars, PAC money. He, his wife, en masse decided that they were going to go to Vegas and blow like $30,000 of our money.
Well, I read the article in the Sarasota Herald Tribune.
They went out to dinners in New York.
He did give a quote to the extent of, and just to paraphrase, that when you're trying to attract big investor business money,
excuse me,
then you got to spend the dollars.
Yeah, like, okay, Sarasota commissioner, don't you think Stubbe or Buchanan or some congressman would actually attract more business than a little local community commissioner? I really am not buying that pile of poop.
So yeah, front page news.
It should be front page news. The corruption, and this is,
and we have a primary coming up here, right?
Yeah, there's a primary, and it's open because there's no Democrat running. So it is actually an open primary. So actually Democrats get to actually elect for a Republican seat. So that's interesting in the primary. So vote Co. For anybody listening, vote Alex Coe. She's a good friend of mine. She believes in conservation. She's not paid off. She speaks her mind, and she wants to protect individuals in Sarasota. So I'm giving a plug out to Alex.
Yeah, I've had a chance to meet.
I've
had a chance to meet her as well.
I've known Alex for 18, 19 years.
I think she's an independent thinker.
She's very independent.
For sure.
Oh no, and she sat on the planning board in Sarasota, and she speaks her mind. She goes against them. I mean, she first and foremost, she's a farmer and agriculturist, and so she likes protection of land. She wants, we all know there's growth, but we've all seen it get out of control, and to the point where now it takes an hour to go from one side of Sarasota to another side of Sarasota. It's crazy.
That's what I tell people every day. One of the best parts of my day is my office and my home being 8 minutes apart.
Yeah,
and I drive east-west. If you go north-south, man.
My God, sometimes it takes me 18 miles. It takes me an hour and 30 minutes some days during season. But anyways, also school board, so important. And Liz Barker, she does an amazing job. And Tom Edwards, big kudos to Tom Edwards. He's been battling that school board by himself, kind of, and solo dem on the seat, and open-minded, and protects the children and all children. And
so it's an interesting late primary too, you know,
Yeah,
but
it's a late
listen,
primary.
95 days and there'll be a lot of focus, a lot of discussion,
Huge
you know.
focus. And I know we only have like a minute to wrap up. I have to do a personal plug here. Several years ago, I think it's been actually 10 years ago, we opened Universal Crescent Clinic in Sarasota. It's a free clinic for uninsureds that live in the county. We are reopening the doors September.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I put out a thing on Facebook. We're looking for volunteer physician, nurses, front desk people. We're trained. For the docs, they have sovereign immunity because it's part of the state. You work under the guise of the state, and they do all the insurance for you, so you're held harmless against seeing patients there. It's non-for-profit. We don't charge a penny. You can't have Medicare, Medicaid. You can't have any kind of insurance. You have to truly have no insurance. If you have no insurance, we'll treat you for free.
Wow.
So it's an amazing service. In its heyday, when we opened the doors, we were only open on Saturdays from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. During that time, on an average Saturday, we used to see like 47 to 54 patients
Wow,
in those
sure.
4 hours.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. And in all walks of life, because some people just fall into a gap where either they're changing jobs and they don't
Sure.
have insurance.
No, especially in this crate. Yeah,
in this-
absolutely.
or the other big gap, believe it or not, is people between 60
Sure.
and 65, because they can't get jobs necessarily. It's hard to, they lost their jobs, they can't get rehired because their age, and they are too young for Medicare. And
Oh,
they're
that's
stuck.
awesome. Listen,
Yeah, so
thank you for giving back. I
so
mean,
it's
that's
yeah, I'll
exciting
be
to get
there
that
every
back.
Saturday morning. I'm there all the time with so I'll
Awesome.
be there. You'll see
That's
me.
up in Sarasota.
It's off Northgate Boulevard. Yeah. And I'll give more details because we're gonna have a big grand opening with media and press there and stuff. But yeah, we're so psyched. So if you know anybody that has been struggling to see a physician or hasn't seen a physician in years, you will have free access to our
Sure.
clinic. And
Listen, as long as you're shouting out, I'll give a shout out
We
to
can do
what we
shout
got going on in the clinic. Listen, anybody who's been our patient in the past who wants to come back into the clinic, you know, we sent out an email, and here's what it's about. There's been changes, of course, you know, since people have been in the clinic, and you know, people drop out for a lot of different reasons. Some go north, come back south. Some drop out because they don't need medical cannabis anymore, can't afford medical cannabis. Point is, we want our patients to be able to talk to us to decide whether or not they want to come back into the program at this point. So listen, I'm happy to talk to anybody at this point who has been our patient in the past. We can do everything on the phone, and then
Yeah,
listen,
which
if you want to
is
come
awesome.
back in, we connect with the staff and then we get the
Absolutely.
paperwork done and all that. So we're kind of doing it backwards because we know that there's so many, listen, there's
Young
new
people,
products,
new
there's edibles and
products,
topicals
people
and
who
patches.
haven't, they're like, oh yeah.
We have patients that were around when there were only 5 MMTCs. Now there's 22.
A lot of
So
changes.
there's a lot of
Oh,
changes
deliveries,
for
things
sure,
like
even
that,
the
a lot.
availability of telehealth
Yeah.
to that extent, but you have to do it with a doctor that you've already seen physically one
Yeah,
time
one
in the
time.
past. So that's why we're reaching out to our patients. And, you know, we know that there are some of them that, you know, they haven't been in the program for a while. So, you know, if that's you, give us a holler and we'll, you know, we'll talk a little bit. And listen, it just makes sense insurance policy wise almost to have a cannabis card going into the vote, because it may or may not pass. And if it doesn't pass, then you have your card. And then if it does pass, you can watch the legislative process ensue to see, you know, what the program's
And
going to look
what
like.
and what the perks are going to be for having
What it's
a
going to be,
medical,
what the
or
tax rate's going to be, what the product. Well, listen, we'll talk about that as we come closer. You know, listen, we have the National Marijuana Business Association event on September 25th. I'm honored to be asked to be on the panel. We may know a little bit more about what the parameters may be, but nobody's going to know until it passes or not. Nobody, zero, nada. Anybody that says they do, I got it. Anybody that says they do, they don't. So everything is rumors. Don't get overtaken by them.
No,
you know,
it's personal choice at this
it
point.
is. It is. Pay attention and vote your conscience, and
Yeah.
and you know, but that'll be the entire sprint. You know, listen, we'll grab a guest next week. Then I'm going to go on
And then you're on
vacation, and then we'll come back for what really will be the sprint.
That's going to be a
because
huge
we
sprint.
down to about 60 days. And you
And
know, it's interesting too, because they say the political environment, the calendar doesn't even start till after Labor Day.
I don't know.
But
To
it's
me,
just such an
you know,
everyday
it's so-
type of
it
thing
is.
right
It's-
now.
It's in full blast.
And listen, you got to
streets
know
are
that
everywhere.
Kamala has come out with unbelievable boost of energy.
People
you know.
donated who are first time donators.
It's fun to watch.
It's fun to
you know,
watch.
people
I love
really
the
have been
energy.
engaged.
And-
It almost
and
takes you back to, you
It's the
know,
good old
to-
days where like
yeah.
she's packing stadiums and people love her and you know she came up with her own phrase of you don't want to go back anymore, you know, we
Sure.
want to go forwards and
or even say it to my face. And I think
yeah.
it will be interesting to see that debate.
well,
and I hope there
want-
is
yeah,
that
well, we
debate.
keep talking. We can wrap it up because
You know.
otherwise we're going to keep talking. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. See you next week on the Green Room.